Good morning, friends. Good morning, friends. Hello, my friends. Good morning to you. Gotta turn off the dehumidifier. That wouldn't have sounded good. Yes, Dred, we will be bringing the neighbor. The one and only neighbor. My favorite neighbor and your favorite neighbor. Yes, Dred, since you've noticed, I am a little spiffed up right now. Rich, welcome. Dennis, welcome. Heading over to Penn State Harrisburg for some Healthy Habits workshops. This will be fun. Healthy Habits workshops. And it's really interesting dealing with college-age young adults because oftentimes we see the world quite differently. And it's up to me. Thanks, Dred. I think grape is a good thing. Yeah, it's interesting. You have to relate. This is purple, Dred. This is purple. Purple, like a grape. Like a big old grape. Speaking of grapes, what color grapes do you prefer? What kind of grapes do you prefer? I prefer red. Red grapes are my favorite. Red seedless grapes are my favorite. However, they didn't have red, so my wife bought green. Now, I like royalty. Are royalty grapes? Or what's royalty mean, Dennis? Royalty grapes? I don't know of royalty grapes. The Concord ones, Pritch? Those purple ones? The Concord or the Concord, however you say it. Anyway, yeah, so when you say purple, you're talking about Concord or you're talking about red? This is confusing. Dred is the most stately viewer we have. So Dred, come on, I'm confused here. What is royalty? Royalty are grapes or royalty is purple? Is purple royalty? Maybe. Is grape royalty? Anyway, Big League Chew grape royalty? What? Are red grapes, Dred, since you're the most stately viewer we have, are red grapes purple grapes? Just a simple yes or no, Dred. Dennis, you don't need to, be funny, which you're not really. You don't need to do that back and forth banter. You could just answer the question, Dred. Well, I'm going to go like this and swipe Dred out of here. And then I'm going to like that and swipe Dennis out of here. Oh my gosh. Two things are happening. One, I'm getting irritated, and two, I'm losing my place here. Okay, so Dred, either answer the question or get lost. Purple is a royalty. What? Oh my gosh. White grapes. What are white grapes? There's white grapes? But it's grape. You can't have a white grape. That's like saying a purple blue. A white grape? You can't have a purple blue. Come on, Dennis. What are you talking about? Psh, Dennis, a white grape. Come on, dude. Wise up, Dennis. Come on, seriously. Or a red black. This is a red black. Come on, Dennis. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Dennis? All right. It's just like the four of us. You know what? We might as well just have a conference call on my cell phone. Because that's from a white bird, Dred. That's like the only ones that are here. It's just the four of us. So I'll tell you what. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to call Dred, and then we'll conference in Dennis, and then we'll conference in Pritch, and then we'll just have our own little party. How's that sound? Just kidding. Not going to do that. I am half joking, half serious about the grapes. Dred, can you just let me know if purple, or Dennis, when you say purple, do you mean Green grapes are called... Wow. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for your valuable nugget you just put there. Now, when you say purple, Pritch, when you say purple grapes, do you mean red grapes, or do you mean purple like Concord, the purple ones? Like the deep, I'll say blue, but we'll call them purple. All right. Wow, green grapes are called white grapes, white wine. It just blew my mind. All right. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to AM Excellence 598. This is the Spaniard Show. This is the Spaniard. This is the world's toughest lifelong learner, and this is the second day we're studying the book, The Good Neighbor. Excuse me, The Good Neighbor, The Life and Work of Fred Rogers. Now, I had said yesterday, I put out a couple posts yesterday, but Mr. Rogers has played a distant role, in a kind of a close role, because we had a guest who is from our area, Dred and I's area, who worked alongside Mr. Rogers for some 20 years. He was an intern, and then he worked and became friends with Fred Rogers. So it was neat to have him on the show so he could actually talk to us about the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Rogers. So at this point in the book, it's a very thorough book, but it's such an educational book, and he's, from years ago, Dred and I sat in Sheets, and Dred said, you're kind of like a modern day Mr. Rogers. And it was at that point that I was like, what are you talking about? But then I realized it really is about this idea of learning, right? It is about this idea of lifelong learning. Obviously, Mr. Rogers specialized in young children, but still the idea of lifelong learning is there. And Rogers never focused on money. So reading this book, you learn a lot about his background, a very, very thorough deep dive into his background. He never focused on money. He came from wealth, but then that often kind of made him shy away from it. It was kind of like he was brought up in it. He was very aware of it, but he didn't absorb himself in it. He essentially paid no mind to it. Now, this was something extremely interesting. So Mr. Rogers' focus was never money. Now, just the other day on Sunday, I went with my daughter and my wife to Disney on Ice. And I made a post yesterday, but Disney on Ice, it touches my soul. I don't just sit there as, oh, this is cute. I hope my daughter's having fun. No, I look at everything. I look at Moana. I look at Frozen. I look at all of these. I look at the Toy Story. I look at all of these characters and think back to, there was a day, there was a minute where they didn't exist. And then there was a moment they did exist. And then from that moment on, they built and created. And not just a doll, but the meaning, the influence, the power, the impact, the smiles. Right? We're talking about Mr. Rogers, and now I'm talking about Disney. But truly, it is about goodness and kindness and happiness and magic and bringing that to other people. Now, in the book, so on Sunday we went to this Disney on Ice, and I was mesmerized at the big picture of what Walt Disney created, but then also looking at the ice skaters and the dancers and the characters, and just thinking, wow, that's their mastery. That's what they've learned to master. And to me, that's what it's about, is the utility or the function of yourself as a human being, right? Whether it's physically doing these feats up in the air and flying around and bending around, or whether it's dancing or skating, or whether it's artistically with your voice or artistically through books, no matter what it is. To me, that's what it's about, is utilizing your mind, your body, your emotions, all of that, utilizing it for good. But in the book, back to the not focus on money. So it talks about this, and it says this in the book, quote, giving up significant income from more aggressive commercialization of Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers gave up something else, something he would have valued highly, a legacy as strong and lasting as that of Sesame Street and the Muppets. Think about that. Now, this is neither good nor bad. This is neither right nor wrong. But Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, had a set of values, and he had things that were important to him, and he was unwavering. I feel like it said an iron conviction or an ironclad adherence to standards. Well, he also had that with his values. His values were ironclad. You remember that saying from a long time ago, success has a price, but it's always negotiable? So at this point, Fred Rogers knew, hey, money is not my focus. Commercialization is not something I want. Commercials aimed at young kids is not something I want. Is that to say Disney is wrong? No, not at all. I love Disney. But the point here to extract is Fred Rogers knew who he was. He knew what he stood for. And to adhere to that, right? It's not all sunshine and happiness. It's not a big, bright, shining rainbow where everything is happy and love. No, there were costs to his values. There were costs to the things he did. There are costs to everything you and I stand for. But at the end of the day, you've got to recognize who you are and where you stand. And the simplicity of Fred Rogers is also something that jumps out and smacks me in the face. It says in the book, quote, his legacy lives in the concept of a caring neighborhood where people watch out for one another, no matter where they come from or what they look like. Think of that. So his whole concept is based of that as a neighborhood. And in the book, you know, it talks about this idea, and I want to draw back to The Outsiders, S.E. Hinton, if you've been following AMX Kids. So this idea of a neighborhood, Fred Rogers didn't grow up with everyone loving him and his family was wealthy, although they did do a great, great deal for the community. It was still elementary school, it was still middle school, it still got picked on. But he used this idea, this E plus the event plus response equals outcomes to create this idea of a neighborhood. It's like Cheers, where everybody knows your name. Mr. Rogers created that as he was a young kid because it was his way of dealing with the things that were thrown his way. Remember, when I read the book The Outsiders, in the preface by S.E. Hinton, she said that writing The Outsiders was her way to deal with the obstacles and challenges that she was going through in her life. So she wrote the book to figure this out. She wrote the book to try to process, digest her feelings. Mr. Rogers is doing the same things. He's using these puppets, these puppetries. He got introduced to music at a young age. He's using all of these things to deal with the problems and challenges that he's dealing with. And it just so happened, this is my favorite part about learning about success stories, is there is luck involved. There is luck involved. All of this is happening with the advent of television. All of this is happening. All of these things are happening. I believe it's the 20s, 30s, 40s. All of these things are happening in Mr. Rogers' young life. And then he's growing up, having experienced all these things. And then all of a sudden, this new technology that nobody knows anything about, television. It's kind of like podcasting, honestly. And nobody knows anything about it. They're figuring it out on the fly. But he used this new invention to, quote, to convey the most profound values, respect, understanding, tolerance, inclusion, consideration to children. He gave them a place of reassurance. And I can guarantee you, every AMX Kids that I put out on Tuesdays is to do that exact same thing. To be that comforting voice on a kid's shoulder or that pat on the back to tell the kid, hey, it's all right, man. Hey, it's all right, girl. Whatever's going on, it's all right. Let's dive into these books. Let's forget about this stuff over there. And let's really focus on what's truly important. And what's truly important is in these books. That's where I draw my inspiration from Fred Rogers. I draw my inspiration thus far in that area. I draw my inspiration from reading about the support that his family, that his mother and his father and his grandparents gave him, and how vital and how important it was for them to allow his curiosity, for them to answer his questions, for them to encourage his natural inclinations. And later on in this reading, it says this, quote, and this is, it's like, you don't need to go digging for stuff that's not there, right? In the book, it says this, quote, his lesson is as simple and direct as Fred was. Gosh, this makes me smile. Human kindness will always make life better. So I said a lot of things today. Rogers' non-focus on money, the fact that in that he gave up a legacy as big as the Muppets and Sesame Street, the simplicity, creating this neighborhood, this place of goodness and reassurance, and just that human kindness will always make life better. So take that with you, my friends. Remember, human kindness will always make life better. Thanks, Fred Rogers. Thank you all. CharlieSpaniard.com, at Charlie Spaniard on social media. Let's talk books, my friends. See ya. Man, if I could just do that all day, every day. Yeah, Mr. Rogers was colorblind. And it was neat in the book. They're talking about TV being new. They're talking about TV being new. So it is chance. It's luck, right? It's just luck. TV came out. This confluence of things. But he was colorblind. And Mr. Rogers was colorblind. And they said that he was in charge of organizing the set. I believe it was for a different show, and he was like a assistant, and he didn't know what was what because he was colorblind, and he would just like put things in a place and figure it out. But that kind of went along with what I said earlier about I'm going to use a shite show. It was a shite show, But that kind of fell in line with nobody even knew what was going on anyway. So anyhow, I hope you enjoy that. Oh gosh, I love it. I love it. I love this stuff so much. So I hope you're getting from it. And I'll see you back tomorrow morning. AMX Kids came out yesterday. Where the Red Fern Grows. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so have yourselves a good afternoon. Check out Where the Red Fern Grows, whether it's you or whether it's your kids or you. You're gonna love it. Where the Red Fern Grows. I'm reading this book like smiling, kind of crying, going back to my childhood memories. I'll see you tomorrow for AMX.